Welcome to the podcast. My name is David Shanhun, and these are the chats I wish I could have had with someone as I've created life as a full-time musician. If you're on that road and you need a friend, or you need to hear the same stories and struggles that you're going through from another human's mouth, you're in the right place. Connect with me at davidshanhun.com and let's move you into that space where you're really thriving and sharing your gifts with the world. Let's go. Welcome to another episode. It is the new year. Welcome to 2024. This is really a chat I never had with myself. I'm having with myself and with you now on this podcast. But I've shared a lot of times in different, interviews, podcasts. I'm relatively sure I've shared on the podcast. If not, definitely in videos on the YouTube channel. But literally, I started playing guitar aged 14 with a dream that I don't know quite when the specific dream evolved, but it was I wanted to be full-time. I wanted to be performing as a musician full-time. And amazing, guess what I'm doing? I am a full-time musician, and that has been a thing for a long time. This podcast, though, is really about I didn't adjust. I ticked that dream off, and then I didn't really create a clear new picture. And with the start of a new year, I know a lot of people typically have high hopes, they plan things, and then we get distracted by the environment that we're in, the demands or the commitments that we've already set. And the thing that has us shift or change this year's results compared to any previous year, and have some form of genuine dramatic change. And by dramatic, I mean that you're living a different life. Your days aren't waking up and repeating the same old thing. Like, yeah, there might be some different things. You're playing at a different venue, but it's kind of like, it's got the same feel and the same energy. The difference is really a new dream and a new goal, and you have to foster that. You may have something that pops up that, I'm going to say grabs you, it leads you, you allow yourself to be led by that vision, and it's strong enough, it's in your face, it's repeated, it's something you naturally have there to guide you. But for a lot of us, I can only speak for me. And you will either resonate with this, or you will say, that's not me at all, in which case that's fine. But for me, I get excited about things, and then the reality is that excitement shifts, because it's like, okay, I want to release an album, I want to have a #1 single of my own on the charts, I want to be on radio. The reality is, I haven't done those things. So all of a sudden, those ideas, those goals, those visions, it's like my life is not set up to have those things work currently, because the day-to-day life and routine and habits that I'm in, some of which are making this podcast, that leads to a certain result, if you like, a certain image, a certain contribution that I give. But a lot of my other habits are planning, scheduling dates for other venues, for weddings, for that sort of thing. They're not a scheduling, recording time, meeting with, I don't even know, like, what is again, haven't done it, what is the perfect path to having your next album hit the #1 spot, be on radio. That's not a path I've followed and made happen. So it's like, oh, what does a day look like from there? And I actually watched a little, it was a little clip of an interview with Steve Vai, and he talked about he would daydream. He had this vision of essentially a character playing on stage, it being effortless, it being fun, that essentially he just honed and molded of himself, that he grew into becoming that character. And for this video, my goal is that you take a step out of your daily routine. You're going to have to put something new in that routine. And the first thing starts with, what is your goal? What is your vision? What is 2024 going to be for you? And what's the difference between having an aspiration and living it, achieving it, keeping it alive, keeping it real, when the reality is for a while you're going to have day-to-day things that you need to still do that align with who you are now or who you previously were. There's going to be, if you keep doing exactly that, you're going to repeat the year, is what I'm saying. And I laugh because it's like, I appreciate your comments tuning into this podcast, that it's of value and you've gotten something out of these chats, but so much of this and me talking to camera is in a way selfish. It's for me. It's for me to go back and listen to and be like, what is the difference this year? Have you actually got a clear goal? That'd be the first thing. Do you have a clear goal for 2024? What you're up to as a musician? And if you're listening to this, yes, musician may apply, but it may be in other areas of your life as well. Do you have a clear goal of what that looks like? And over the course of this year, can you hone that? Can you make it more specific as you tread that path and take whatever the first step is? Can you hone and have that become clearer about what that vision is? And one thing that's been useful for me is I have to have a goal that I can fail at. That might seem a little bit strange, but for me, if my goal is to be to improve my guitar playing, that never draws me enough to really shift and change aspects of my life. If it is to play a certain song that feels out of my skill level and perform it, that now I can fail at that now, right? I can get to a certain point where it's like, either I haven't put in the work to learn the song, or I haven't put in enough work. It's taken more work and been more challenging than I thought. And I have to have a deadline of some form that I'm going to perform it. Now, if I go and perform it and I am frustrated with how I played it, then I might have a new goal. I might hone that goal, and now that goal is to play that piece perfectly, which maybe I didn't specify right at the start, but it has to be something where it's like I can fail at it. So then I can look back and go, did I actually attempt that? Did I go for it? Or did I just kind of ignore that? And maybe, and this is what I'm guilty of doing, is not bringing it up, not raising it, and not having the conversation about it. So yeah, this is where it gets awkward for me, because it's like, sharing on this podcast, my goal for this year is to have a #1 single in New Zealand of my, I don't even know what song it might be, right? But of my own tunes. I did that with a cover of Joshua Caddison's Jessie, and it was a seed that was planted by a mentor of mine. And I remember, it's funny looking back on that, but I had not been willing to, as I say, adjust or recalibrate from, I essentially achieved my somewhere 14, 15, 16-year-old dream to be performing music full time. I just didn't set really another clear goal. I just drifted between all sorts of different bits and pieces. And yeah, it's honestly, it feels awkward for me to share that on this podcast, but it is January the 7th, and we have the year ahead. So you will all get to watch and as that plays out through this year. And I'm sure I'll be frustrated at different things. I'm sure I'll be absolutely over the moon at different things along the way. But I can fail at that. It's also exciting enough that I'm going to shift things and be like, hey, I actually want that. It's something that I actually want. And I've had a couple of chats with friends recently where it's like, I've been awkward to share this. I've been awkward in my life to share any goal and say, I want that. Purely because I can fail. I can get rejected. I can get turned down. I can not, I can put out a bunch of songs and people are like, man, I don't like any of these. It's not going anywhere. The market is honest, and that's one thing I love about, even with this podcast, with YouTube videos. It's, you can be over the moon excited about something you've created, and other people go, hey man, I just wasn't into it. And I kind of like that, because I get the satisfaction of making it. I get the satisfaction of doing this podcast and keeping my word to myself. And if you dig it and you get something out of it, man, that's super, super cool. And if you've if you've already tuned out, then you won't hear this anyway. But if you tune out and this message is not for you, it's not useful, it's shit, you didn't resonate, there's nothing, or it's maybe something you set goals, you have no issues with this yourself, and you think, why am I listening to this guy? That's something he's been timid or struggled with. Amazing. I think that's cool. The thing I've noticed for myself is, and the thing I've noticed is that I've been afraid, and I've been living in that fear without really noticing that it was there. Just being like, hey, I've got my little I'm a full-time musician badge, right? That's pretty cool, amazing. But I actually have dreams and goals and a picture beyond just that, and I hadn't really stopped to realize that. So if you take anything away from this, I highly, highly suggest that when someone asks you, what are your goals this year? You have something. And for me, the way I work out if I actually have a goal or not is if I can fail at it. So maybe that's something you can apply. But by the end of this year, there will be an outcome. I will have either had a #1 song in New Zealand of my own tune and creation, or I won't. and we will check in along the way. But it's something that has bugged me, and I've found awkward, and so I wanted to share it on this podcast. I also wanted to share with you that are tuning in, as awkward as it feels for me, I also think it's super valuable to just share this stuff and be like, yeah, that is what I want to do. That is where I'm headed. And I know I'm going to have weeks where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just doing this. I'm distracted. I've got people vying for my attention and time and energy. I've got things, commitments and shows that I need to do that are not pointing me in that direction. And for me to be able to shift and just go, hey, that's cool, I'm happy to do this, but my focus and my attention is on making that happen. is really important to me. And before I waffle on too much for this, I feel like that is the essence of what I wanted to share in this podcast. So I hope, and I'd love to hear from you what some of your goals are. If you don't have one, if when I say that it feels awkward, I highly suggest you pick something that's out of your comfort zone, that you don't necessarily know how you might achieve that, but maybe there's an inkling, a kind of idea that maybe if I started this, if I just started heading there, it could lead towards that. So welcome to 2024. I'm super amped for this year, and there's also a part of me that is has been holding back on saying that, but genuinely super excited for this year, and happy to share it. So thanks for tuning in. I will see and chat with you in the next episode, but I'd love to hear from you. Drop me a note what your goals are. What is the desired result that you would like to see happen this year for yourself? Much love from me. See you next week.